thing that you can do with your partner is to create a yes, no, maybe list of different things for intimacy and sexual connection. And again, like, intimacy doesn't mean intercourse. So you can create intimacy in so many different ways. And you write this separately, your list, your yes, no, maybe list. And this is actually borrowed from a sex educator named Amy Jo Godard. And so if it's, what's important is if it's on the maybe list, it's a no until it becomes a yes. And you both do this, and then you come together and, like, maybe over wine, you both share what's on your list. And so you have a mutual understanding. You're like, oh, like, blindfolds is on your yes list. All right, maybe that's something we can play with. And then you might see, like, oh, both of you on your maybe list have, like, I don't know, erotic poetry, whatever it is, BDSM, who knows, right? And that's both on the maybe list. And you're like, oh, maybe that's something we could explore together. And it's just a really great starting point to have a conversation. And if you want to add to that, what you can do is, on the things that are on the yes that you both mutually want to try, you can actually, like, write them out and on pieces of paper. And once a week, maybe you carve out time for, to have, like, an intentional intimate time, meaning, like, on Sundays at 8 p.m. it's phones off, and we know we're going to, like, have a dinner, and maybe, like, we dress up a bit for that dinner, even if it's at home and we're eating the same thing. Like, there's just the intention behind it to make it a bit more special. And then you take turns, you pull out one from that little list, and it's a little bit of spontaneity, it's a little bit of surprise. And I think that's a really great way of keeping things a little bit juicy and exciting and mysterious during a time when you are with someone 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Of our partners. And we might even have ideas about ourselves, like, we're not this person. And so when we have a fantasy that contradicts this person that we think we are, there's a little bit of tension and maybe, like, wigging out on what's going on. I think we can look at our partners and be like, oh, my partner is just like, he's boring, or she's boring. He's always, like, in a square, right? And I think that a lot of people, it's not that we don't have different fantasies and, like, have, these parts of ourselves that are wild and adventurous. I think that sometimes we're socialized to suppress a lot of these things because we don't want to look weird or stupid, or you had an experience where you were shamed for voicing or showing that you were interested in some of these things. So I think that yes, no, maybe, especially if you don't already have a dynamic where it's really easy to talk about these things, could be a great place to start. And then from there, you might see, like, the partner might say, like, oh yeah, like, I have maybe handcuffs is in there. And then that could be a great place, like, it's like a web, and then that goes off to another web, and you're like, oh, handcuffs. Like, so what is your experience? Have you ever tried it before? What have you done in the past? And then you kind of ease in. So, like, what is a fantasy that you've had, or you've had even pop up once in your mind? And, like, would you be open to sharing it? Or what's a fantasy that you've actualized? And, like, you can start to have that conversation, but I don't think you go from 0 to 100. I don't think you go from, like, hey babe, is turkey for dinner? And then afterwards, like, so I'm really into double penetration. What do you think about that? Like, you need a few in between.